The grief cycle. This is something that I see in so many clients, and they haven't identified it for themselves. But basically, there is a cycle of grief, and the first thing that happens in the grief cycle, or the bereavement cycle, the first stage of loss, and that can be losing your job, it can be being mugged, it doesn't have to be an actual death. The first stage of this is shock. And you'll hear that with people saying, I can't believe it, I can't believe that happened, I can't believe I've lost my job, I can't believe my bag was here 1 minute, I can't believe it, I can't believe it. So with this shock comes this kind of disbelief, the psychological denial, we might call it, and the physical coping mechanism of that is one of numbness. We become quite numb, and that's how we get through the early stage. It's like, I can't believe it, I can't believe it, I'm not absorbing this. So that's one stage. Another stage is guilt. And you'll hear that with, if only I hadn't left my bag there, if only I'd been more often to see him or her, if only, if only, if only. So a guilt will present itself. And actually these are healthy stages of grieving. Another stage is anger. And again, we may identify this with, why me? Why now? Why her? Why us? Why these things always happen to me? And also, I'm a great believer, and I subscribe to the school of thought that says if we're not able to express that anger outwardly and get cross and slam doors or whatever, and it becomes internalized, it can often become a depression. So I think often, and I've seen this in my work over the years, that depression will actually be an internalized anger. And often this happens with very sensitive people, very caring people who don't want to hurt anyone else with their anger, so they internalize it. It becomes like a big black cloud, to use a metaphor, on the inside that just, helps them to kind of collapse. Another stage of the cycle is sadness. We will feel sad, we'll have tears and so on. And then one day we have some closure and we have some acceptance. If I can spell it today, we have some acceptance of the loss. But there is a very fine line between acceptance and denial. And my own experiences, it's like, no, I'm okay now. I'm to terms with that. Or am I? I'm just actually a bit numb and I'm not feeling at all. So, and this is a cycle. You don't go, oh, nice little step. I've dealt with my anger, so I'll go on to guilt now. And it's not a series of steps. It's a cycle, and we can flip into anger, back into denial, into sadness, and this might go on in whatever a healthy grieving period is. Possibly 2 years. That can be going on if an elderly grandparent passed away and actually it was a blessing in the end because they'd been very unwell. That could still be 2 years, but then that's very different from losing a child or sustaining several losses, losing your job, losing your sibling, losing a child. I mean, that's not going to be 2 years. But these things can be going on, and people just, stiff upper lip. They get on with it, and they don't even realise that these things are happening. And also, sometimes people get stuck in stages of grief. So somebody who may be angry a lot of the time, actually, that could just be that they've got stuck in the grief cycle. And this is where go and get some professional help. At the very least, Google it, YouTube it, read some stuff around it, get to know yourself and understand why you're feeling so angry all of the time, because it's probably to do with a much deeper loss that you haven't quite processed. So that's my version of the grief cycle. Thank you.